Tevez da solo, Tevez al limite dell'area, gli fa fuori tutti, Tevez, si apre la porta, Tevez, gol, da dietro, Pirlo dentro,
Hey Juventini, welcome back to the All Juve cast, and we got a full panel. We got Cliff, Omer, Lou, myself, and we're happy to welcome for the first time on the All Juve cast, Dan Colosimo. How's it going, man?
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for having me.
You betcha. We're all pumped. Everybody's familiar with Dan's work, great graphics, and then of course the video edits. Always a favorite, and I'm sure you've got some on tap for some announcements we're waiting for that we're gonna get to. But we got a little bit of a tradition around here, Dan, and that's finding out how everybody became a fan of Juventus when they make their debuts on the show. So we'd love to hear how you became a fan of Juve.
Okay, actually, I can pinpoint it down to the exact game, and it was when Del Piero scored that header against Mexico in the 2002 World Cup. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, I thought he looked so cool with that long hair and the Kappa kit. It was just a crazy combination, and then that's when it pretty much all started from there.
And that's nice.
Yeah.
Lou, that sounds familiar, eh? Yours was 06?
Yeah, well, all my cousins watched Serie A. They all were Roma fans, but so I didn't really know anything about Serie A. But when Italy was on their way to winning the World Cup, Del Piero scored that goal against Germany, and it was like, I want to follow that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, iconic celebrations on both, by the way.
Yeah,
His celebration with Mexico was pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that Mexico one because it was a ridiculous time for me out west. It was like 3 a.m. or something, and I'm watching this thing, and then he comes off the bench and scores that one. It was money, absolute money. Dan, let's talk about your projects. What do you got on the go? What's it like as that content creator doing the graphics, the video editing? And now we know, I've seen that you got to edit the video of that Serie A gala that took place in New York. So talk a bit about your projects and what you got going on.
Okay, well, first off, I have to thank the guys at IFTV because they really hooked me up with a bunch of these gigs. So definitely, I owe a lot to them first off. But yeah, the YouTube channel and the graphics and stuff like that, I'd say this is like the craziest time of year because I have so many things like behind the scenes that either never get published or they get published, 2 or 3 months later. Like for like the Locatelli one or the Di Maria video. Like the Di Maria one, I finished maybe in May, and it's still dragging on now. So it's definitely tough because you always want to have, the video ready whenever the news drops. So you kind of have to make these things in advance. But then if the news, I guess if it never pans out, you kind of just have to end up tossing that video away. So it's kind of a risk that you have to take, but it's still fun and rewarding in the meantime to do it.
How long does it take you to make a video?
I would say it depends, but it's anywhere from 2 to 4 hours mostly.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of time, especially if then it doesn't get announced or anything. So you're dropping a lot.
Yeah, and I've definitely tossed out a lot, especially this year and last year. So it kind of sucks when you see that work just go when it could have been such a big thing, but it's kind of the name of the game, really.
Yeah.
How much did the Locatelli rumors drive you nuts last year?
Yeah, crazy. I think I had that video saved in my drafts for 3 months at least. I was just waiting every day to drop it, and at the end, I didn't. I mean, I cared, but at the end, like the whole feeling was gone by the time it actually happened.
So, Dan, I got a quick question for you. So I know you said you have to sometimes scrap these videos and stuff. Is that the most difficult part of what you do? Is that these are kind of like your babies, and then you have to kind of let them go once you put all this work into, one of these videos or one of these edits?
Yeah, that's probably, I would say, the toughest one. I know most recently, I would probably say that in January, I had one prepped for Icardi when he was coming here, which wasn't that great of a signing anyways, but I thought the video was crazy. I spent a lot of time on it, and then when that didn't end up happening, obviously we got Vlahovic, so it worked out in the end. But yeah, it just sucked that video never dropped, and there's no point of dropping it really anyways after because there's no hype after the rumors are dead.
Mm-hmm. There's got to be some videos you don't enjoy doing on signings you're not excited for. Was it Cardi one of them?
Yeah, definitely.
You're just like putting it together, and oh man, this is brutal.
What's the moment you decide you need to make a video about someone?
I don't really know if there's like one specific moment, but I can always tell, when there's like the big guys are sort of announcing these rumors. Definitely like Shearer and Romano always have sort of the main guys that you have to look at. But as soon as I see the collective group all sort of reporting that it's basically done, that's when I start. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. What was your favorite piece that you've done so far, and why?
That's a good question, actually.
Like it could be something that maybe was recognized by the player himself or something like that, or just like a video that you got the most recognition for. But
right, I think there was one a few years ago, and it wasn't really Juve related, but it was just one of those like year-end recap videos that I try to do mostly, and I think it was around that time there was that plane crash with the South American team where they all passed away. Anyways, that went crazy viral, and I still have people commenting on my videos talking about that one. So I think that kind of put me on the map on YouTube. It's kind of just been a catalyst for good things. So I'd probably say that one. And then Juve related, I don't know, maybe it wasn't on YouTube, but maybe making Marquisio's goodbye video. That was probably one of the biggest highlights for me.
Yeah, that one was pretty epic. That one was pretty epic for quality players. So that's pretty cool. Awesome hearing about all that stuff. We're obviously going to tackle all the rumors and get Dan's opinions on what's going on circulating around Juve. Before we get to that, everybody knows how the all Juve cast panel feels about this past season and whatnot, but let's get Dan's thoughts. How did you feel about this past season, Juventus, the transitioning, Allegri coming back? Let's just get your thoughts on that before we get into all the rumors.
Yeah, this one was a weird one for me. I was saying the same thing to Beppe on his channel, where the last one was kind of, at least for me, the first season where I kind of found myself not putting like Juve games first. Like if I had plans, I wouldn't really cancel them for the games as I normally would, or I'd watch the games, but I'd kind of be distracted on my phone or my laptop. And I just thought like the passion or like the excitement was kind of gone, especially for a few weeks where we were having like really, really poor results. And I don't know if that was just a combination of how we were playing or, lack of signings or, just Allegri's formations and stuff like that. So it was a weird one for me because it kind of just felt like I was forcing myself through some games this season, which definitely wasn't great. But I'm hoping next season is better. I think it already picked up for me in January when Vlahovic came too. So I think the passion's coming back. It was just sort of like a moment in time where it was kind of just not that great to really be a Juve fan.
Yeah, and that's pretty on point for how the rest of us really felt. The January window was a big boost. Mm-hmm. They just got to start putting it together on the pitch. So
yeah.
Rumor mill. Let's get to the rumor mill. So Pogba, all of a sudden Di Maria, apparently back in play. We're waiting for Di Maria's answer. Pogba, Kostic remains one of those targets for Juve, waiting for some of the, basically an offer for him to Frankfurt, but apparently a 3-year agreement is in place there. How do you feel about these particular targets? And then we'll go around the horn and get everybody's thoughts on these pickups.
Well, I guess the YouTube guy in me hopes that they all come through because I made all their videos. So I'm hoping they all work out. But I think they're great signings. I was kind of confused because I know they were kind of going in a younger direction when Allegri was first brought on. So to see like almost an opposite in their strategy this summer is kind of worries me because I start to think, do we exactly have a set plan that they're trying to follow, or they're just trying to get back on track as soon as possible with great signings, no matter their age. So, but I'm definitely excited for Pogba. I'm hoping that happens the most because I think if he can sort of regain his form that he had with us, he would dominate the league. So, yeah.
There you go. Lou, been a long time. Even Lucci's asking, holy smokes, Lou's alive. The rumor mill. How do you feel about these ones? Do you think Di Maria is actually back in play?
I think so. I just think Di Maria is back in play because Barcelona is no longer in play.
Yeah.
Which, you know, like for those who don't know, I mean, we have a group chat on Twitter where all the AJC members hang out, and I was kind of like, you know, one of the people who originally was like Di Maria, we gotta get him. But there is a part of me now that's kind of has a little bit more reservations if Juve's kind of like the last best option in his mind. It's not his first priority. It worries me because we talk on the panel all the time about, you know, players like, you know, wanting to be here, actually wanting to give it for the shirt, you know, play their all. You know, that has created some reservations for me. I still think that talent alone, like he, you know, easily walks into our 11 and makes it better. But will we get kind of the energy, the passion, you know, we're kind of missing and we expect from him for the full year? Is now, it wasn't a concern, but now is. As far as Kostic or Pogba, I mean, we never replaced Pogba the first time. So if Pogba comes back and plays to 80% of his capabilities, he already helps us out a little bit. So, yeah, on Dan's point about the age, you know, going younger, I think the one thing that is really interesting with this, it is weird because these guys are all, you know, 28, 29, over 30 in Di Maria's case. I think Kostic is 29. I do think, though, Juve need a little bit of balance. They've lost a lot of veterans. Chiellini's gone. Dybala was your vice captain. It's now, you know, only Bonucci, you know, kind of from that old guard, that DNA. So
Yeah.
it kind of like Milan a little bit. They needed to bring a couple vets in this year to kind of help the younger guys grow. I think Juventus has to bring in 2 or 3, especially if they can't bring back someone like Morata to kind of carry these guys over for a full season.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, Bonucci is literally the last piece from that winning reign there, so be interesting to see. Obviously, talks about him with captaincy next season, and then Allegri was even speaking to it and whatnot. But Fabiana Della Valle put out a report today saying that basically Bonucci was hurt last year, actually, and getting stripped of it for Dybala. It ended up being a extremely strange scenario. And then now, looking at how everything's unfolded, really just awkward setup, but it is what it is. Cliff and Omer, I'm going to change the question for you two, and I want to ask, should Di Maria fall through or whatnot, who would you handpick out of the list of targets that's been named outside of that? We won't include Kostic because apparently he has nothing to do. He's a standalone target, but the other names that came up were, you know, Berardi, Zaniolo, Pulisic, and Mudryk. So out of those, or is there someone outside of that that you think is logical that we could go after?
Omer?
I'll go first. My favorite up until now was Asensio. That seems feasible because it seems like tons of world-class players are going to move around in this summer and next summer. The Mane, Salah, not Boateng, what's his name? Leroy Sané, Gnabry. Tons of wingers are going to move around Europe from some of the big teams to the others, and we're not in that mix. And that kind of worries me, but I get it. It's a money thing, and we can't afford those type of players. So Asensio seems like something that could happen. But again, history of injuries and stuff. If not, then Zaniolo, probably. And those are like my 2 picks. And if not, then I don't know. I don't know what else to do. Like, we got to get Di Maria, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would be massive for us, especially being on a free, because then we've just got so many spots to fill, you know, and we'll talk about center back and stuff too, but let's stick to this one. Cliff, your favorite target out of those options?
Well, first I'm going to say I love Kostic and Pogba. I think those are great signings. Di Maria for depth, and then also to fill in for Chiesa while he's out. Out of those options, I might get a little bit of flack for this. I think Berardi is the best because I don't think you don't need a world-class player at every position. I think Berardi is a really good, consistent player who's going to give you, you know, the numbers and the, you know, consistency that you need throughout a season to last and to, you know, give you the performance you need. He would pair really well with Kostic while Chiesa is out, I think. And then when Chiesa comes back, you could maybe move Chiesa to the left, Berardi on the right. And it's a really good combination that they, you know, they're used to playing on the national team together. I think it would complement the team really well. You have the pacey winger in Chiesa on one side. You have the more technical and kind of like not the pacier, but kind of quicker player and Berardi on one side, kind of interchanging. I know it's kind of a weird way of putting it. Oh gosh, I knew Beppe was gonna say something. But yeah, that would be my pick. I just like Berardi. I think it's time for him to make the big move, and I like him at Juve.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Berardi. When I was kind of talking about the price tag and not liking that price tag, people brought up the stats, the numbers, and say that is 40 million value. Here's the reason it's not really justified in my personal opinion. If you were going to get Berardi for that money, would you not rather go for someone that's got way more long-term ahead of, like maybe a Raspadori for less money? If Raspadori is truly, you know, that 25 to 30, which was always the rumored price tag, right? And of course, we're just running on speculative prices or whatnot. But that's just one example. There's other examples of players that are significantly less that might have just as much upside. So for me, that's why I'd probably not go that route, especially if the rumored 80 to 84 million euro budget that we're on right now before outgoings is true. All of a sudden, 40, you know, in that range for Berardi is out of the question, in my opinion. What do you guys think about that? We'll start with Dan.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I think Berardi for maybe half the price would be a good deal, but I don't know. Sassuolo like to overprice all their players, so I think if we could get him cheaper, fine. But I think for 40 mil, you could just put that into somebody that has so much more like flair and longevity, like an Anthony or a Rafinha or something like that.
Yeah. Lou, what do you think?
Not for 40 mil.
Yeah.
It's if it was like 25, I can even overpay it 30, but not for 40.
Yeah.
I just think like, also too, like again, I just kind of mentioned before, like on top of needing a right winger, they need fullbacks, they need center backs, they might need depth in the midfield. You know, like just I can't justify that in my opinion.
Yeah. Omer?
Yeah, not for that amount, not for 40 million
Too much.
ever. No, that's it. It's a sort of overpricing, and it's fine. It's their right, but if that's the way they play, then don't buy from them. I wouldn't take Berardi for 30 even.
I'll caveat my response with saying if he's 40, no, because that is a high amount of money for him. Like Lou said, if it's 30, that's a more decent price. But you said Raspadori for less. That's I think a really good young option. But yeah, for that price, it's a little bit pricey. And like Dan said, Sassuolo like to do that. They like to upcharge people on their players.
The FIGC should discount us 10 million on anyone who buys Berardi because of North Macedonia game.
Oh man,
just for that.
Also, not to mention, we were also linked to David Neres at one point, so we'll see if that ever comes to fruition with anything.
No, he's close to Benfica. I've seen
he is?
today. Yeah.
Okay, let's scrap that then.
So here comes Mr. Noni saying if we don't get Di Maria, pay the money for Berardi. So Cliff, you got Anthony on.
I got Anthony on board. Wow.
Listen,
you and the elderly.
Shows the importance of Juve and what they're doing with the youngsters. We've got that carousel of Fagioli, Rovella, Miretti, but purchasing in Italy, you've got a lot of Juventini saying it's time to start looking elsewhere because we're getting almost robbed at home on these price tags and whatnot. And I want to get the panel's thoughts on that. And what do you guys think? And then we'll tie it into Fagioli, Rovella, Miretti, who you think needs to be integrated into the team next season. And we're going to kick this one off with Cliff and then come around.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. Everybody knows that with the bigger teams in Italy, a lot of the times they get fleeced on some of these deals. They're just, getting upcharged so much on some of these players because teams know that they could pay this. So that's what they do. So for me personally, I really like the idea of going abroad for talent, especially some of the teams look in the lower leagues, like you see, or quote unquote lower leagues. Like we see Belgium getting picked off for talent, De Ketelaere being linked to Milan, who's a great young striker in Belgium. I think a sweet spot for Juventus to look is in Bundesliga. I think Bundesliga is a very underutilized league where it's just filled with talent everywhere from Borussia Dortmund to RB Leipzig. You name it. They have a bunch of great youth academies. They have great up-and-coming talent. Like we saw, Kostic from Frankfurt, really good talent, kind of underrated as a player, in my opinion. So I think that's the place where we should really be looking at La Liga too, because play style-wise, they're very similar to Serie A. So I think Spain and Bundesliga are the places that we should be looking for our talent as opposed to just looking in the league.
Yeah, and out of those three, Fagioli, Rovella, Miretti, who stays and who goes if you had the decision?
Man, you put me on the spot because Ravella Hive might kill me. Honestly, I I think I would go. I think Miretti, we've seen something from him, but I still think he hasn't shown enough. He's been unproven. I would say it's really tight between Rovella and Fagioli. I would lean slightly more towards, I'm going to go Rovella. I'm going to go Rovella Hive. I'm in love with Rovella. I think he's had more Serie A experience at Genoa. I just think I love the way he plays. If you look at his statistics, he's just so good in the midfield. He does everything. I'd follow that by Fagioli and then Miretti being my last one.
There you go. There you go. Omer, same
Yeah,
question. Buying talent abroad, ushering in new Italian talent, and then what you would do with those three.
Talent from abroad, like I depends on what you're shopping for. Like if you're Pogba is nice. If you're looking for some long-term midfielder that's gonna stick with the club through thick and thin as much as he can, then the Italians have a bit of a different. Like they grew up living it and loving those clubs, and all their houses full of Juve fans, Inter fans, Milan fans, and they appreciate it more. It's more of an achievement compared to someone coming in from a different league, from Germany, for example, from the Bundesliga. His dream was to play in Bayern, most of them. So Juve, he'll be at Juve. Juve can purchase him, and he'll be there until something better might come along. Like I would trust Chiesa to stay at Juve for longer than any one of the other guys, based on what we've seen from him. So depending what you're shopping for, we've seen yesterday that the Italian team has some great youngsters going around the league. There are players I would spend 40 million on, youngsters from the league. Berardi is not one of them. And it just depends on the profile you're looking for. Italy doesn't have wingers now. They have great midfielders at the moment running around. So I would keep Fagioli and loan Miretti, sell Rovella.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Lou.
Oh, so I think on the transfer question, I think that one thing in the past, at least Juventus, they don't recruit extremely well. I think that we've missed. I think the teams that take advantage of Italian talent and getting them for good deals, Milan with Tonali, Inter with Barella, they pick the right talents for not just the right price. I think Juventus, like, they kind of get stuck on one or two names and then you just sit around and wait for it. I don't think that they've negotiated deals very well in the past. Now we have new management, so it's a little bit different. I think that you're right. I mean, there is a degree, like, I think that Lazio will overcharge us for SMS. I think, like, a player like that doesn't come in for less than 70 to 100 million, right? But I do think, if they're evaluating talents, and like Omar said, the talents that are really good in Italy, midfielders, historically defenders, you're willing to pay the price on some of those players. But they should look abroad. Cliff is right. There are some really talented players abroad that are, out there. So it's just all about the player and the skill set, right? And which one's better, which one's cheaper, and can you find that here? Can you find that somewhere else? It's about that definition. I think for the young midfielders, it's tough because I don't really think there's a wrong answer. I think they're all good and they're all good in different ways. I think for me, if everything goes right this summer, we sell the players we have to. I would keep Fagioli and Rovella, and I'd loan Miretti out to a club like the newly promoted team that Fagioli was at. I always butchered their name. Cremonese, yeah. So I think that, I just think that Miretti, and people will say, well, that goes against developing youth players. I think 19 is like a good age to loan out a youth player. I think where Fagioli and Rovella, they went wrong. You kept those players on loan at 21, 22. That's too late. You get them right out of the way.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do personally. But I understand if you're hey, you got to sell Rovella or Fagioli because they do have some market, right? So I get that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Dan, let's get your thoughts on the whole, should we be targeting a little more abroad now that we're actually having a solid U23 project and bringing up the talent? What are your thoughts on that whole thing? And then out of those three, Fagioli, Miretti, Rovella, how you think who we should integrate and who should be loaned out?
Yeah, I always like to bring up the example that Sassuolo are asking more money for Fratesi than Real Madrid bought Camavinga for. Like, I think
Yeah.
these guys just. I know Camavinga was in the last year of his contract, but I just feel like these smaller Italian teams are just. I mean, rightfully so. They're trying to get the most amount of money they can for these players, but most of the time it's just unrealistic. And for the price, there are just so many younger talents, like Cliff said, in the Bundesliga or even in League One that you can just go and scoop up for almost half the price. So I think definitely we should be looking elsewhere. It's obviously a bonus to look in Italy when you find a player that's a Juve fan because their passion is just so much higher if they get signed. But there's also the economic value that you have to take into consideration. So I think definitely we should be looking abroad for specific deals. And then with regards to the three youngsters, if there's enough room, I would actually love to keep Fagioli and Miretti and then use Ravella to possibly in a possible swap or to lower the price tag for somebody else.
There you go. There you go. So I've been a member of the Ravella Hive, but as the rumors have crept up and, if it came down to the latest, which is Fagioli pushing for integration and some type of commitment from Juventus, which I have to say, good for him. Good for him for doing that. It's a good call by his part, and it's warranted. So he kind of plays in line with kind of what Lou was saying in terms of, you can't just wait forever. Like, it's time to, basically shit or get off the pot. So in terms of Fagioli, I like it. I like what he's doing. He's taking that stand. The meetings are this week coming up where we find out if we get that renewal for him and potentially an integration. If it came down to losing Fagioli, that's ridiculous in my personal opinion because Juventus has waited so long for some of this youth that we could actually integrate. Now you have it and you just aren't committing. Let's keep Fagioli in. Let's get him in there. Miretti, I agree with Cliff. We haven't seen enough. I would probably loan Miretti out. Rovella, if there was an opportunity to use him in a deal, I would use him in a deal depending on who that player is that we would be using a deal for and how the rest of our Mercato kind of structures out, because it's really hard to say at this point. If Pogba's the only midfield name we hear, Fagioli coming in, if you start looking at it, what do you've got? Pogba, McKennie, Zaccaria, Locatelli, Fagioli, like pretty strong. Rabiot's probably going to be one that they want to shop and go out of there. I don't know if Dan's going to do a goodbye Rabiot video. Some Juventini have asked for it,
Please do it, Dan.
He might be one on the move, but that's how I would play it out with those three. So it's interesting to hear all the thoughts and whatnot, but Rovella, yeah, I mean, he's arguably the one that's most ready, though. And that's the interesting thing. He's arguably the one that's already there, ready to go. But on all our lists, he's kind of not there. It's interesting.
There's a few ways. Oh, go ahead, Cliff.
Sorry, Lou. I was just going to say real quick. I want to make a note of something that Anthony said in the chat. He said that Rovella isn't injury prone. He was just into this year. 100% right. People are like throwing this word injury prone at Rovella, even though it was literally just this year. He has never shown signs of like chronic injuries until like having an injury this season.
It's only for the second
19.
half.
Yeah, he's only 19. Like, I don't want to hear injury prone already.
I didn't have enough time to be injury prone.
Yeah. Also, too, I think it's really interesting that about all three of these players, they have different characteristics depending on who's sold in our midfield. Like, if Fagioli is staying, you could see someone like, God forbid, but Weston McKennie getting sold because there's a price there. You have a player that's more creative, right? You have that to fill there. If someone like Rabiot is the only one to go, who's a little bit more defensive, a little bit more physical, that's where someone like keeping Rovella is advantageous because that's what he's really good at. He's a little bit more like a Locatelli, defensive type of midfielder. So I think that it's really hard because all three of those guys have different attributes, right? We kind of don't know what Miretti is yet. It's a really hard question because there is no real wrong answer in my opinion. I just think it comes down to details.
Look, it's just you have to start using your U23 squad. The advantage that you're the only team who has them, and won't be long before players know that if they come to the U23 Juve, they'll end up getting loaned or just as a bargaining chip for someone else. And it's an advantage that we have that team, and we need to start using it. And Fagioli should be the first one, to come through and stay with the senior team for at least 2 years. At least that's what I expect from him.
I
But Juve
also
has to
like.
show they're in for it.
I was say I also like that he's like fighting like to play in the team. Like that's
Yeah.
got to count for something that he's showing that passion that he wants to play in the team. It's not like he's saying sell me right now. I want to get an opportunity in this team. So I really can appreciate that.
Yeah, Rovella having value is a great point too, because he's probably got arguably the most again being that guy that's ready. So it's gonna be very, very interesting to see. Let's get to center backs. Yesterday, I read something. I can't even believe I wasted my time on it about De Ligt, and De Ligt just continues to get these awful, awful takes circulating around him and whatnot. But, it was along the lines of, has he been worth the money and whatnot? This is absolute craziness for me. But De Ligt's an interesting situation for Juventus, taking the awful takes out of the equation, because they're looking at a renewal. He wants that safety net of a lower release clause. We know nobody's going to come in and pay, 125 for center back. So that release clause getting lowered in part of this new deal. That happens. I don't see it happening this summer, him leaving, whatnot, but we've really got to figure out center back position. Yesterday, Gatti gets to play with the Azzurri. And my God, he's got the potential to be something pretty special. I mean, he was very calm and collected, and it's not like he was playing against slouches, right? So it's like Abraham's right there in Serie A. You'd be playing against him and whatnot. England's a very attack-minded side. He looked absolutely fine, and he played next to a Cherby, for God's sake. So, a couple errors here and there, but for the most part, great showing. 90 minutes, 0 times dribbled past, a bunch of key interceptions, ground duels. I think he was like 50-60%, aerials 100%. Solid showing. Let's get Colo's thoughts on Gatti there and straight integration next season, and your thoughts on the De Ligt situation.
Okay, well, yeah, I definitely love the idea of promoting and keeping Gatti for next season. But I don't really think that covers like our starting center back. I would love to see Gatti like as a rotational, but
yeah,
I mean, we're kind of just set with a healthy De Ligt, an injured Bonucci, and then Rugani and Gatti, which I mean definitely isn't enough to compete in 3 different competitions. So I don't really get why the center defender isn't really being prioritized right now in the market, because I think it's like a huge hole that we have. I know we have other holes as well in the team, but we just I haven't seen as many links for defenders as we have for wingers and stuff like that. So I think we should definitely be focusing on that. But Gatti looked promising yesterday, and I hope he gets a lot of minutes next season, because I unfortunately I think Bonucci's going to have more injuries as well. It's what happens with age. So yeah. I think he'll kind of be thrown into the lines then next season. But I'm hoping he can pull through.
We're 3 days away from the deadline for Atalanta to purchase Demiral. Otherwise, he's back in our hands. Would you keep him around?
That's a good question too. I think if they can get a desired sum, whatever they're asking for, if I don't know if it's around 30 or 28 million or something like that, but I don't really think he would be happy to return. I think once you kind of get loaned out and return back, I don't know if your passion is there as much. So I think if they can sell him off, and then I mean Koulibaly would be insane, but I don't think that would happen. But buying somebody of that stature to sort of be paired with De Ligt is definitely a priority.
Yeah. So Cliff, Omar, Lou, guys, Demiral, keep him around if he comes back in our hands?
100% keep him. Unless that 30 million that you sell him for buys you Koulibaly. If he's more than that, you keep Demiral, because Demiral, in my opinion, he's this just aggressive, brash center back that like would pair perfectly with a more technical center back in De Ligt. I think they'd be a beautiful pairing together. And then you have Gatti waiting in the wings, like Demiral, like Ant said, Demiral solves a lot of problems if you bring him in. If you bring him in, him, De Ligt, Gatti, Rugani, and maybe one other defender you bring in, that's a solid center back. It's a lot better of a center back core than they will be without Demiral.
All right. Omer, Lou?
Yeah, I've said it before. It's just Bonucci is the huge question mark, because if you're not going, Koulibaly won't come to Juve or Bremer or anyone who wants regular playing time, basing off just Bonucci being injured. And on the other hand, he's your captain. Like, he's the longest serving player in the club right now. Are you going to bench him? Is he going to be a regular sub? So as long as Bonucci there, I don't see Juve shopping for any like top tier midfielder to be a starter next to De Ligt. And it's a problem, because if this season goes bad, then De Ligt is out and you're left only with Bonucci, Rugani probably. I'd keep Demiral. Maybe he'll be up for that role of like vice Bonucci, but yeah, that's probably the move in my opinion. Keep Demiral just for that.
Keeping Demiral. Yeah, Lou, your thoughts on the center back scenario? I got to agree with Dan. It's kind of weird that it's not a higher priority from what it seems based on the rumors.
I have a lot of thoughts on this. If you can't tell from my Twitter, I'm always tweeting about it. It's what I've been tweeting about for about a month. But I like to say on the Gatti thing, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Bonucci. He gets forward a lot. He makes some like little mistakes. So he like misses like runs or things like that. Obviously, not a perfect player. He's been in Serie B for a while. There's a lot of like raw talent there that just needs discipline. So I'm excited to see what we could get from him. But it's telling that, Juventus want to keep him. Mancini's calling him up. I mean, that's got to go for something, right?
Yeah.
The De Ligt thing is funny to me because I think that, fans just assume that we're going to sell De Ligt for 120 million, buy Bremer and Koulibaly, and it's going to be fine. And it's just like, the risk of selling De Ligt is, you cash out 120 million, but like, if you don't get someone to, two defenders to kind of pair with Bonucci next year, if you sell De Ligt, you're going to finish fourth place again. I mean, you might if you don't get like a good alternative. And Omar, you brought up a really good point. The problem is Bonucci, right? I think Bonucci has a lot to offer. I might be in the minority there. That might be unpopular, but I think there's still a lot left. I think Juventus just run him into the ground every year. Usually by January, he logs like some of the most minutes on our team. I know the year under Pirlo, he was the leader in minutes, and then he missed 2 months after, just breaking down. I think they need a solid, backup. I don't know who's out there. I don't think Milinkovic cuts it. I don't think he's, like someone that gives you enough in reserve, right? That's the hard thing. I don't know if they go like someone younger. The kid we're always linked for him from League One. I haven't seen enough from him to say like that's a good one. Like
Gabriel?
Yeah, I don't know.
So the thing is the financials, right? So the thing with Milinkovic, I know it's not that name that creates a lot of excitement, but based on how many spots we have to fill, the guy's like 15 million euro, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like at least it helps and you're not breaking bank, and then you can at least look a little further forward, right? But like if you can swing a deal and sell Rugani, right? You've got Demiral coming back. You've got Gatti integrated. Like Demiral, Gatti, Bonucci, De Ligt, if we want to roll with 4 center backs next season, is actually pretty strong with Danilo as coverage. Like, I don't think that's that bad.
The Demiral thing is interesting. I kind of side with Dan on this one. When you get loaned out, you come back. It's hard. And Demiral had problems with Juventus to begin with. He didn't really like kind of his role at the start. And, they're kind of asking him to do something a little bit similar. I mean, his role is going to be more because Bonucci, like the report said this morning, he can't play every game. But, that's an interesting one. I wonder if he stays, I would want to see the reports around that. Like, is his role increased? Is there something more there? It's a really tough question because, like, you start to go down the list of things, and I agree out. Like, Milinkovic, the advantage is he's cheap, but he's not necessarily excited. I think like if they get another center back, it's gonna be someone that like we're surprised by, right? It's gonna be something that's way out there.
Yeah. So we've got some comments coming in, like where he's saying De Ligt is not the difference maker. The front line will make the difference. We seriously need to score more goals. Yes, we do need to score more goals. Absolutely. The thing is, where's our end game? Like the future, you still have to always have eyes on the future. If De Ligt, if say we have another rough season, say we struggle, we don't win or something, even if we're second or third or whatnot, the possibility of losing De Ligt is there, especially if a release clause comes in at a lower fee. These Premier League teams, I mean, for Christ's sake, look at what they bought Harry Maguire for. Look what they spent there. You think somebody's not going to jump, especially with Ten Hag now pushing. That's why I don't see it happening this year, because Man U's not in Champions League, right? So all those rumors I kind of laughed off immediately, because there's no way De Ligt's going to make that jump just yet. But if Ten Hag could start switching things around, you never know. Not only that, there's going to be a lot of teams interested in De Ligt. Bonucci's going to be on his way out. Where's the next set of defenders for Juventus? That's why it needs to be high priority. Of course, we need to score more goals as an immediate fix, but we have to have priority at center back. Like, there's got to be more of a focus there. KM saying that remember that Nomolo thinks Bremer and Badashio are the guys Juventus are most interested. I have a feeling Juventus jumped so quickly on Gatti the second they knew that Bremer was heading to Inter. And I think this whole time Bremer's been Inter's, to be honest. What do you guys think?
100%.
Yeah, he's not. Torino's not selling Bremer to Juve. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a reason they haven't signed him yet. Like they're trying to get rid of one of the defenders. Paris offered for Skriniar yesterday. It was reported. Bastoni to Tottenham. The Fry, they want him out since January. Like, someone has to leave, and it's been said that Torino are a bit impatient with them, like in the past week. So I'm not sure he's already locked, but definitely another team can jump in, and it's like Tottenham or Paris, and just take Bremer off everyone's hands.
It's true.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, but I don't know. I don't know about Bremer Badashio. The other thing we have to remember is it's been very quiet on outgoings. And our budget is roughly 80, what it's rumored to be, before outgoings. You splashing that much on a center back, then what happens the rest of the way? Because if we have that many confirmations of guys leaving that we know are leaving, it's going to be really, really interesting. So the latest on Alvaro Morata, which I find very, very interesting, Atletico looking at renewing his deal for 1 year to loan him back to Juventus again. What do you guys think on this one? Colo's shaking his head. Let's kick it off with Dan here on this one.
I actually feel bad for the guy. I think he's obviously on the field, he's not like a crazy world-class player, but off the field, I just get the sense that he's like such a nice guy. And I just feel bad because I always feel like he's just used as like a rag doll for different teams and different transfers and stuff like that. I think he obviously feels at home at Juve, so he wants to stay. But I mean, I don't know. Looking at all his transfers he's had over the years, it's like so confusing, and it, I don't know. I just feel bad for him. But I do think the loan deal is actually a pretty good idea, because then you'd have somebody to use as depth, like Legli likes to use them on the wing, but then you can also use them maybe as a vice Vlahovic if they don't get a replacement. So it almost kind of solves two issues at once. But I would actually be in favor of keeping him, because I feel like he loves the club a lot.
Yeah, Lou?
Yeah, I mean, if they could get the right deal, I think they should keep him. I'm a little biased too, because I really like Morata. Like Dan said, I think he really loves the club, and he's a useful player. And in the locker room, like, you see on social media, him and his wife, like, they play an important role with, like, helping the players get integrated and stuff like that. And he can kind of help Bonucci, like, connect that link, because he was there for some of our best years. So I keep.
Yeah. Omer?
No, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. I'm not excited about re-signing him at all. I think he's done his time. I'll pump up the rumor that he's a money laundering tool for clubs, and we need to use that too to our advantage somehow. But I don't know. He's just too fragile for me. I know he loves the club, and I appreciate it and everything he's done, but I don't know, he's just too soft. He always has to be so calm in his mind. Everything has to go well for him to succeed. And we're not at that point where everything is going well. We need someone with a spine, a bit.
With another loan deal, factoring in how many spots we have to fill, and then possibly using more money in other areas, you still wouldn't be behind a loan for Morata if it frees up spending elsewhere. Really?
I wouldn't go out on a riot if they do sign him. I don't hate him. I just don't think he's good for Juve. But yeah,
I think the way, like, he just, I don't know. There's we can't lose all the guys that have that just that drive and determination for Juve. He loves Juve, and I think that should be looked at. Also, who are you going to get for 10 mil? Who are you going to get out there for 10 mil while trying to boost all these other positions? It's not like there's going to be that big a gap. He looked a much better player as soon as Vlahovic hit the scene as well, and that weight was off his shoulders. I think there's too much going on. If you're talking Morata out, Bernardeschi out, Dybala out, Cuadrado potentially, like, I don't really see us filling all these spots that strongly to justify letting this opportunity pass. If we could just pick him up one more year for loan, even if we're looking at guys like Muriel, whatever, like, I just don't see that being a game changer in terms, if we're going to renew Alvaro Morata or go for Muriel, I'm not jumping out of my chair to go sign Muriel.
No, I wouldn't sign Muriel. But Atletico have the upper hand in these negotiations right now, and we can basically loan him for 10 million or either buy him for 10 million at the end of his contract, or he goes back and we are not making any money out of him. If he has a bad season, he goes back, that's 10 million down the drain.
Can I jump in real quick? Sorry, just on Morata, I think that one thing I forgot to say is a lot of fans, their expectations for him, like what he was brought to do, I think are two very different things. He was always brought in to be an alternative to Dybala, Ronaldo. That was the partnership. Mm-hmm. Dybala was hurt all of last year. Ronaldo got sold. And he kind of was like, when Dybala was hurt, he was kind of like the focal point of attack, which never was supposed to be like what he was brought in for. So if he does stay, I hope it's under like that guys. Like, like Vlahovic should, help, be the focal point. Chiesa should, if he recovers, be the alternative. And Morata is an alternative to those two. He's not the focal point.
Exactly. He's that support player. Mm-hmm. I think, and Animesh, we get some comments. Given a choice between loaning Morata and getting Kostic, I'll take Kostic and let Morata leave. Kostic is standalone. Like we mentioned earlier, like nothing affects Kostic apparently. So in all the reports, all the rumors that I've seen, especially from the upper echelon of journalists, Kostic is standalone and won't affect that. When we're talking Morata, we're talking about the alternatives of Dzeko, Arnautovic, Muriel, Milik again.
Simeone.
Those are the alternatives we're talking about. So for me, that's a no-brainer on a loan for Morata. Cliff, your thoughts on this one?
Last thoughts on this. I'm kind of indifferent because, like, I respect Omer's point, and I do agree with him to some extent. He goes down way too easily a lot when he's going down. When he's playing, he just like throws himself to the ground, and I don't like that. Even though I do know he has a lot of passion for Juve, he needs to show it on the pitch and fight through contact. But at the same time, for that cheap, for a guy who knows the system, who's been a part of the team for a bit, he is a really good super sub. When he's not the focal point and he's allowed to come off the bench, he could be a really effective super sub. I know we've been also linked to Simeone. I like Simeone a lot.
I like Simeone.
It's really tough because what are you going to pay for him? Is it going to be 20 mil plus? Is it going to be 15 mil? I don't know what the ending fee is going to be. If you're saying between those two guys, I'd have to lean towards Simeone talent-wise. But Morata is a very solid guy who knows the system and is a very good super sub.
Simeone would probably be the one that I'd say, okay, we can let him walk if we bring Simeone in.
Yeah.
But again, if you're picking up Morata on a loan,
it's cheap.
You might still be able to bring a Simeone, and I don't know. It's interesting. And Morata's kind of that guy that showed last season, especially when Vlahovic came in. He can fill in across the top. He can be that versatile guy that kind of supports. But we'll see what ends up happening. Quadrado. Latest on Quadrado. Juve wants to lower that salary, or potentially he might be on his way out. Cliff, would you do that? Would you let him walk if he doesn't lower salary?
Oh, Lucci would love me if I said yes, but for me, I think the depth of having Cuadrado, like I don't think he should be an everyday starter. I just don't. He can't hold up as right back for a whole season. He can't be a right winger because he loses the ball way too much. So I say if he's not willing to lower his salary, I say adios. You've done your time.
Adios from Cliff. Omer.
Not...
Adios from Cliff.
Yeah, I've already said it before, so it's nothing new. I've had it with him, like I want him out, but we need to have someone there for that role. We've been lacking in right back since Lichtsteiner, basically. Lock Molina first, then talk about selling Quadrado. If not, then it should stay.
Did Danilo die? Everyone talks about right back, like Danilo just doesn't exist.
No, because I tell you why. Because we're not shopping for left backs at the moment. I think the Shilio and Danilo are going to play more left back than we think, and I think it's going to fill in for the center back too, more than right back.
I'm a Quadrado guy. Everyone knows it. That might be news to you, Dan, but he's not a right back. I do agree with that. Like he should not be playing right back. He's just not a right back. But I will say, like everyone says, well, Quadrado, like his 1v1s, they're terrible. Quadrado had the best record of 1v1s on the team this year. He was like one of the leaders in Serie A, like beating your man 1v1. So like I get it. Like he is really frustrated. He's a little bit older. I just think like it's useful to keep him for a year. At the end of next year, he leaves anyway. Like I don't see him coming back after next year. But as long as that position's filled with like an everyday starter, you think like Chiesa will be here. You may have Morata, you have Košić on one wing. Maybe you have Di Maria. Quadrado doesn't have to be an everyday starter. He's just he's a useful player as a utility. And I think too, if Juventus come back, if those rumors are true, which Quadrado kind of dispelled that this week, those rumors are true and Juventus was like, hey, lower your salary $1.5 million, I think he would. That's just my personal opinion. He's been here too long not to.
Oh, I think he would too. Dan, your thoughts on the Quadrado scenario?
I think he'd lower it as well. I agree. I don't think he can last a whole season at right back. And then to use him sort of as a super sub, as a winger, I mean, if all these transfers go through and we have all these guys coming in, plus maybe integrating Sule as well, like I don't think they'll want Quadrado to be on his salary while being third choice winger. So I think he will lower his salary if they ask, because I feel like he feels at home at Juve, but I wouldn't be heartbroken if he leaves as well, because I don't know if his current salary is worth the 3 moments of magic that he has throughout the season.
Yeah, I think the thing with Quad is salary-wise, I think it's got to start to make sense. It is a little up there for what we got, especially last year. And there's a lot of talk, there was his assists were like the highest they've ever been the year prior. We had Ronaldo there, even though I think only 5 of those assists accounted for Ronaldo goals. Like there's a lot going on. We need to score goals. Like we need the attack going. But if we're going to be really light up top, I don't know. Like we've got so many spots. Like you continue each guy that we say, okay, yeah, we can get rid of him. We can get rid of him. We can get rid of him. It's another spot you have to fill.
Yeah.
And at some point, you do have to look at all the intangibles to make sense of who's coming in and is it going to work. And I think if we give ourselves way too much work, it just ain't going to happen. It's just not going to materialize. But let's see what happens. Yesterday, we've got some tweets coming out from a couple guys saying that, the little emojis with the octopus and the Argentinian flag and then the little hourglass. So soon, hopefully soon, fingers crossed, Juventini, we get those two. That would open up things a lot for Juve because they're on freeze. So let's wait and see. But everybody, get your Storm the Barn questions in. Okay, we got about another 10 minutes or so. So get them in here now. We'll start tackling them. I want to ask Dan his thoughts on Paulo Dybala. We're going to kick off Paulo Dybala with Dan because this continues to circulate around social media. And it's as good as done, apparently, and going to be announced very, very soon. And I want to get how you feel about, this whole thing, how it played out, and now him joining Inter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but I was a huge Dybala fan, but I don't really know which sort of sources and what news to trust on Twitter. So, I mean, if it's true that his contract was offered, in October, November, it was so much higher, and he was playing hardball and all stuff with his agent and stuff like that. If all that's true, then I mean, his legacy is just so tarnished, and it's such an unfortunate end for a guy that brought the team so many great memories. But yeah, if he goes to Inter, I mean, he doesn't even exist to me anyway. So,
Well said, Dan. Well said.
yeah.
We got one comment right there that kind of sums it up there. But Lou, the whole Dybala thing.
Just there's one rule: if you're a Juve fan or a legend, you just don't join Inter. Just that's it.
Yeah.
You can't, and I think that same thing. I just saw there's a tweet circulating yesterday. It was from a Agnelli press conference where they said they had offered him a deal back in 2019, and that's why I think he couldn't register his agent was one rumor. Then it was the price was too low, and now you're signing for $6 million. And on top of the fact that you're just a snake, you're also an idiot. Like, you had your chance.
The worst representation, I must say, of any player of that caliber I've ever seen is hands down Paulo Dybala. He has the worst. It was his brother first, and now it's this schmuck Antoon. But he's had the worst representation for a guy of that ability, hands down.
Also, people forget that before Ronaldo arrived, and listen, I like Dybala. Like, I liked Dybala up until probably this year. I just kind of got annoyed with him this year a little bit. But people forget until Ronaldo arrived, he was gonna, for lack of a better word, screw off to the La Liga. He was trying to go to Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG. That was kind of the rumor. And then Ronaldo arrived, and him and Pjanic stayed. So it's like this loyal. That's like Paulo Dybala is innocent. The club's all wrong. Like, it's not necessarily that true.
Yeah. So Omer, your thoughts on it?
No, I've talked about it a lot, and Dan and Lou covered my thoughts basically. So I'm going to introduce a tweet that I read. Someone writing that he's a Juve fan, and if Juve and Inter meet in a Champions League final, he wants Dybala to score just to show the club what they were missing out.
That's not a Juve fan.
That came from a Juve fan.
He's not a Juve fan. He's a Dybala. I know exactly who you're talking about, okay? And
I have no idea. I never seen him before.
I gave some criticisms of Paulo Dybala game related, and dude went off his rocker, had a full-on meltdown, blocked me for literally critiquing his play in one match. So that's not, and to ever wish that Dybala joining Inter scores against Juve in a final match, that is not a Juventino. I'll tell you right now. You can't be. It's impossible. Impossible.
Yeah, I just wanted to see you heat up, so I brought that up.
Absolutely impossible. Way to get me fired up this early in the morning, okay? Because you did it. Mission accomplished. Cliff, Dybala.
I love Dybala. I loved him when he was a Juventus player when he first came here. I can relate him a lot. A lot of guys can relate to him because he wasn't like the most physical specimen. He was like on the shorter side. He looks like a 12-year-old. I can relate to that. I still look like a 12-year-old without the beard. But it's finished. I don't want to talk about him anymore. He's the Inter player essentially now. We move on. He's essentially a traitor to the club in everybody's minds. And it hurts. It hurts a lot because he was a really special player to us. And he could have been a legend, a Juve legend. This is the term that's been thrown around everywhere now. And,
I still don't think he would have been. I still don't think he would. If he continued on, he still would have had to reach more heights to reach like legend status. But I don't know.
He would have been in a special place in my heart if he had stayed with Juve, even if he had went to another club. If he went anywhere in Serie A, say he went to Milan or Roma, I would have been okay with it. But Inter, never Inter.
Yeah.
Never Inter.
Because you would understand the relationships, what happened, the breakdowns, if he chooses, a side like Roma. I want to give a shout out to Martin. Thank you very much for the super chat enabled. He says big up to the panel, and shout out to Colo. There you go. I will say this on Dybala. Everybody knows post 2006, you just don't make that move. You just don't make that move. My biggest issue with this whole thing is, like Lou pointed out, he had an opportunity a few seasons ago to show what Juve meant to him. And he was rejecting transfer moves and everything like that. But he also had the opportunity to accept being paid as a top 20 player when arguably he wasn't in the top 20. So for me, if you want to continue to go on social media and play to all the Juventini fans and their hearts with the Marchisio love and the Del Piero love and all this history of Juve love on your social game and whatnot, back it up when it counts. You had multiple opportunities to seal the deal with Juve, and you never did it. You never accepted that. You always pushed for more as well. And then the second you get the opportunity of all friggin' clubs, you go to them for money that you could have made more with Juve, okay? So now in the grand scheme of things, you kind of get what you deserve, which is less pay and tarnishing all the work you put in with Juve over your time at Juventus. Is kind of like you getting what you deserve because you never backed up all your game and everything that you were, preaching to. You want to be considered with amongst the likes of Marchisio, ADP, like all these guys. Those guys would have played for nothing. And they sacrificed a lot. The second Marchisio was told he was out of Juventus, he didn't even think twice about playing in Italy. He said, absolutely not. If it's in Italy, it's only for Juve. And he went to friggin' Russia.
Poor guy.
Del Piero was begging to be allowed to stay at Juve, said he'd play for free. He doesn't need a contract, he said. And this guy turned down top 20 money when he wasn't even in the top 20, arguably. It can't even be a question for me that he has ruined his legacy and time at Juve.
I think he kind of proved the allegations against him when he decided to sign for Inter that he's not a Juve legend. And I know you can't hold all players to the standards of Del Piero and Chiellini, and you're not a Juve legend unless you played 17 years for your club. It's not realistic to today's world. And you can be a legend for two clubs. Just look at Pirlo, no Milan fan. I haven't seen any Milan fans saying he's not a legend anymore because he moved to Juve. But if you want to become a Juve legend, the first step is not moving to Inter.
Yeah.
Because we see in this era, we see players moving all the time, constantly. But going to the direct rival of your club, like even the links with Di Maria potentially going to Barcelona, I had one of my Real Madrid friends and other people who were Real Madrid fans were saying he's a snake. He's one of the worst players to ever play for Real Madrid. They were ready to jump on him. You just don't go to an immediate rival like that.
But see, and there's been such a gap in between that, and they're still fired up. This is like direct. Listen, he's going directly there. That's a cut above for me.
I loved Arturo Vidal, even when he left the way that he did, where he kind of slighted the club. Like I would defend. As soon as he joined Inter, it's just like
it's different.
He can't. It just
and he's and it's just like, and again, that's drawn out too, because Vidal went to multiple. It's one of those things, but directly that stings any way you cut it. We're gonna get to some Storm the Barn questions real quick. We'll just tackle these. LA, who is coming through LA end of July as the US tour is basically confirmed. I'm going through LA. Lou, I know Lou's working on it, but yeah, we're gonna try and get through LA. Colo, are you gonna check out any of the US tour?
I would love to. I've never been to LA, so a trip there would be a dream. But I'm looking into it. Yeah.
There you go. Look at that. AJC and Colo mean up there. Cliff, you going to any of those? Vegas?
Yeah, I don't think so. It's a little bit short notice, but I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. It's tough to swing.
I don't know.
Omar's got a hell of a trip, but he's got a wedding to look after. But honeymoon, Vegas?
No, honeymoon is in Italy.
Oh,
beauty,
yeah,
beauty.
He's got it right.
Well done.
I think we should hit LA and then Vegas. It's only 4 hours apart. Al, we could make this a
Lou's gonna lose his mind.
So we'd have to start. It's Vegas before.
So
So it goes Vegas, Dallas, LA, I think.
You could be wiped out after Vegas. You're not going to
Yeah.
want to travel.
Vegas will have to come second on that list.
But you know what? I like where your head's at, Lou.
Yeah.
I like where your head's at. We'll have to look at that. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll get
Are
to
you
some more
an
score in the
episode of
barn, and we'll see
Friends?
who's going to tackle these. So, why do people complain about Rabiot
Oh
salary
my
so much
God.
when he was signed on a free? All in, he is costing 35 mil over 5 years at 7 mil a season. If it's a 5-year contract, wow. Okay, who wants to tag? Dells knows. Dell's got rated our best shit disturber in the chats, and he's living up to it
I think-
right
I
out of
think-
the gate here. Who wants to tackle this one?
I
It's
think this
between
is,
Cliff and Lou, so you guys sort it out.
Okay, Lou, I'll let you go first because you're the biggest Rabiot hater of all time.
yeah. I mean, I just simply have to ask Dells, has he watched him for 3 years? It's just like, we pay $7 million for that. He makes as much as he makes almost as much as DeLitt. He's like our third highest paid player.
I will say this, in the grand scheme of things, I get what Dells is saying. It's 35 mil over 5 years. However, at the end of the day, it's 7 mil a season. And if we're just paying him to be a defensive midfielder, which is all he's given us, that's not enough. Why are you paying a defensive mid 7 mil a year unless he's like Casemiro, who's way, way better technically and can break a game down? I don't see it.
This man get bullied off the ball by Insigne. That's like 2 mil right there. Like
That killed. Yeah. Cliff.
Like he's like worth peanuts, so I don't know why he's saying 35 mil. He's worth a bag of peanuts. He looks like a baby giraffe that has 2 broken legs when he's running. It's just like he's just awful, man. Like I don't know how you could defend that salary. I would rather overpay for literally anybody else. Aside from Sandro, those are the only 2 players who I just can't stand. Rabiot is just awful, and you can't justify that signing because if it was for anything less, if we're saying it's 1 or 2 million a season, I think people would be perfectly fine with him as a backup or rotational piece, but not at 7 million,
I
man.
can't say he's awful. Like he plays his part, but it's not a 7 mil a season.
For that salary, he's awful.
It's not
at
a
least for
7
me.
mil a season part.
Yeah.
So let's get to the next one. Reminder, like the video, everybody. Okay, let's go. Like that video, hit that thumbs up. Ernesto, how would you line up supposing that Kostic, Pogba, and Di Maria are done? Omar and Colo can tackle this one. How would you line up Juve if those are the signings?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm actually interested in like who the third midfielder would be, because I think Pogba and Locatelli would be locks. So I guess maybe the third midfielder would kind of be interchangeable based off the opponent, like whether you want whether you need Zakaria in there to sort of break things down or McKennie to make runs. But I would definitely say Pogba and Locatelli are the locks, and then up front, if all goes well, it would most likely be probably Chiesa, Vlahovic, and Di Maria once Chiesa is fully fit.
Yeah. There you go. Omer?
Yeah, is everyone fit?
Yeah, let's
Like
say
again.
everybody's fit.
Okay. Szczesny, Bonucci, De Ligt, Cuadrado, Danilo on the left, Locatelli, Pogba, probably McKennie, Di Maria, Vlahovic, Chiesa.
There you go. That's their lineups. I like it. Zakaria is a great signing for Juve, and he doesn't get talked about enough, man. But I like what he brings. McKennie's an interesting one. I don't want to see him moved. There's still some rumors there and whatnot, but I think he's going to end up staying on, and I don't think they should. I don't think they should move him, but he holds value, so it's going to be an interesting one to see if anything actually happens there. I guess the only good news, which is also bad news, there's like no rumors for outgoings in Juve other than players that want out. This guy is one of them. Moise Kean apparently wants out of Juve. Obviously, we have another year of loan with Moise Kean. The latest rumors are that obviously Juve would be purchasing him at 38 million, but there might be a deal on the other end of it. That would be the only way they make it happen. That's the latest on news surrounding Moise Kean. But for me, I think that would make the most sense. I don't want to go if the only way they're purchasing this year, a year ahead of schedule, is if there's a deal on the back end of it. So fingers crossed. Let's see if that can happen. Any news? Oh, no, we just got that one. Where's the next one here? Do you feel we'll be a more attacking team next season or a team with the same boring, pragmatic approach? Guys, Are we going to see some change in Max's second year? Colo.
I mean, when have we ever really been a crazy attacking team under Allegri? Maybe the first year in 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
But I think even when we had Ronaldo under Allegri, we still weren't all out attack most of the time. So I don't really think we'll see a drastic change next season. Maybe obviously an increase over last season because it's hard not to get better from last season. But I mean, I don't think we're going to be a prime Barca out here. I think it's still going to be a Juve type of attack, not attacking play, but just more of a balanced and more of a focus on defending.
Yeah. Lou, what do you think?
I still think we'll be pragmatic. I think it'll look better though, because you actually
Yeah.
have a midfielder in Pogba that can, play a long ball over the top, play a ball through. I think that, like Allegri style is boring, but there are certain games this year, like the Inter game at home where they press a little higher, that just missing the final ball or missing that somebody put in the back of the net. And I think Pogba, Chiesa, Di Maria will help make it a little bit better on the eye.
All right, Cliff.
So for me, I think like Lou said, it's still gonna be pragmatic, but I remember the early years of Allegri on Juve. If they could hold possession and then they could break down a team while holding that possession, beat a team like 2-0, it could look good. Like it could actually be enjoyable to watch, because just looking at the strategy and kind of seeing how the players are thinking mentally at the game and kind of, methodically trying to break down a side, it could be enjoyable to watch at times. But this year was just disgusting to look at, just because there was no creativity going forward. And I think if you had Pogba and hopefully Chiesa at some point during the season can come back to form, I think it'll be really interesting to watch this team, and it'll be actually enjoyable at some times.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I think it comes down quite a bit to the players. I think it's finally coming around where we just see a lot of these guys just, I don't know, everybody's got to pick it up. Like, there was a lot of games last season where even Max takes a lot of heat, but we had a ton of opportunities and these guys just weren't finishing and being clinical. So I don't know really what it is to pinpoint, but even in the matches where we came out and we were, guns blazing, arguably one of our best matches, even against Inter, we left a lot of opportunities just squandered, right? So I think with a good boost in quality and some driven players, like we can make a shift. I don't think it has to just play out that way. You see a lot of frustrations with Max on the sidelines too, and you're seeing players make a lot of questionable decisions and everything. And when you look at that, it's totally players as well, just as big as it is Max. I mean, Juve's always under a microscope, right? And now you've got a very, very much younger squad than they've had historically, right? And you're losing, we just talked about it, you're down to Bonucci as far as the guys that have been through that winning period. That's it. These guys have to learn how to put it all together and what it takes. And when you are constantly under a microscope, you're constantly being critiqued, like to the level that everybody is at Juventus, starts to take a toll. And that's when you can see like awful decisions being made. And it starts with decisions and then it's execution. So when you have issues with those two factors, it comes down to the guys, and it'll get better with time. We've got a great core. It's about keeping them together. But not only that, getting the right pieces around them. Are Pogba and Di Maria right pieces? Going into this season, I think Pogba is for sure, because that midfield has been screaming for a game changer, a guy that could change the game with one pass. I think Pogba 100% would be a guy that would elevate things. And Di Maria, nobody can say, you can talk about the age, you can talk about the money, you can talk about all this. The guy is a game breaker. He just is. He's a game breaker. You want to talk about minutes at PSG? Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe, for God's sake. So is that really a fair argument to give? I don't think so. These guys would be big for Juve in order to help the rest of these guys and hopefully bring them up.
Real quick, Al, one last thing on Max. Max, he's a little bit like in the Carlo Ancelotti like mold where he trusts his players a lot. He like, he tells them what to do, but it's up to them to execute it. It's not like Conte where he's like, ordering you what to do with every pass. And these are intelligent players. And I think that the players, I'm excited about the players Juventus are looking at are intelligent players who I think, will be able to thrive in that system.
Yeah. And that's a good show too. So yeah, I think all in all, let's wait and see where the dust settles. I've been saying this for a while, and I do the daily updates, giving everybody the rumors and everything. But again, it's all speculation, and we just got to wait to see what they do in the Mercato. But Cherubini and Arriva Bene are still being attacked for things that previous management did. So far, they've given us a January, and it was a January that shocked everybody. Even the journalists didn't call it, and they went out and did it in January. Zakaria and Vlahovic. Let's wait to see what the Mercato holds for us at the end of it and what all their acquisitions do together to make sense of it. So even if, say, our next move is something odd out of the blue, wait to see what those following pieces are, because when you think of it, each and every piece, it's like a domino effect. It's going to affect the next move in the Mercato. So we got to wait to see what they truly put together as a whole. But so far, I think they haven't made a bad move so far. And people could talk about the Dybala thing or whatnot, but ultimately, they just weren't willing to take that risk based on his injuries, because where it all kind of shut down based on all the reports was after that last injury. And can we really blame them? Everybody's been talking about Dybala and his injuries for that time. The flip side is we made nothing on a player like Dybala, but would we have ever been able to sell him? Who knows? He would have probably just canceled out all those moves. And if he would have got hurt again, would that have hurt us even more than letting him go? Nobody really knows. You just got to wait to see how it plays out. And that means waiting for this Mercato and how it ends. But let's just wait and see. Molina. I want to see Molina. I'm going to ask everybody on the panel. Let's see. We got Omer back in here. Go around the horn. One player. Let's take Pogba, Di Maria out of the equation. One player you want to see signed by Juve this Mercato if you take those guys out of the equation. Cliff.
I guess I'd have to go with you, Molina. I really want him at right back. I think he upgrades this team. And Pug back, baby. Pug back.
Pog back. Lou, one player you want to see Juve sign.
To be different, I'm going to pick Lodi from Atletico Madrid. I like him a lot. I think he could be a longer-term option to Sandro.
There you go. Colo.
Yeah, I'll go different as well. I'd say either Anthony from Ajax or Rafinha.
Nice.
Nice.
Very nice.
Omar, we're wrapping up. One player you would want Juve to sign.
Grimaldo.
Oh, yeah. Omar's been talking about Grimaldo for 2 years now. He deserves that.
I've been talking about him for 6. You know me for 2 years.
Yeah, for as long as I've known him, yeah.
There you go. I like Molina. There's the shouts for Zaniolo here. You got Koulibaly. These are all great.
Oh, Al, I got one that nobody's been
Gabriel
talking.
Jesus in the mix if available, and they had that chance. When we were linked, last summer, whatnot, I was all over it. A guy that could play right across the top three. Let's go back to a 4-3-3. Would love it.
Al, I got one that nobody's talking about. Mukiele from RB Leipzig.
Oh, Omar's just waving that off like
No, because I was about to say that we need to sign someone from Leipzig.
Yeah,
It's
baby.
not the one.
Rioni.
We're on the same.
Rioni.
So Soboslai and Kunku or Dani Olmo, one of those guys would be a killer market move.
Omer knows ball, man.
Soboslai would be sweet. Honestly, those links we talked about earlier, that Mudryk kid, man, that'd be good, but it's not the right time. I just feel like it's unfortunately not the right time, because we'd have to be a little more established, I think, to bring in that piece. But yeah, I don't know. He's labeled as a prodigy. He's pretty talented, but we'll see. Anyways, that wraps it up today, everybody. You guys have been great in the live, as always. Awesome. Thanks for making it out. Like the video. One quick reminder as we sign off to like the video. Subscribe if you're new. It's all Juve all the time here, and we got a lot of good stuff coming up for the new season as well. And thank you to the panel, Cliff, Lucifer. It's been way too long. We got to start getting you back on here more.
I'm gonna be around the summer more, I promise.
There we go. Omar, always a pleasure, and all the best on your upcoming wedding this week. Okay, and congrats. And Colo, an absolute pleasure, man. Thanks for making it out. Hopefully we do this again sometime, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Definitely.
Why don't you wrap up and tell us what you got going on as far as projects?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'd say YouTube wise, there's definitely 4 or 5 that are kind of just sitting there waiting to be announced as official. But knowing my luck, all 5 of them won't work out.
What's the best one you've got in the hopper right now?
I'd say I'm a fan of the Di Maria one, but I don't know. It's looking sketchy to me now. It's taking too long. So if it doesn't happen, I'm prepared for it. But I think you guys will like that one if it drops.
Nice. There you go. So I'm sure everybody does, but make sure you follow Dan and subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. Everybody, that's it. I'll be back throughout the week with the daily update videos, and then we'll do another live next weekend. Thanks again, everybody. And fino alla fine, Forza Juve. Ciao.